Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another short little unboxing video to share with you guys. We have a Microtech. This is something that I have wanted for a long time, and I kept going back and forth on buying it, and I decided, you know what, it's time. So, found one that I wanted. The biggest question for me was, is it really that much different than the previous generation? I know many of you have asked that same question, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've already been in this box. Today's video is not a review. It's just a first impressions video, but I think for a lot of people, I'm going to help answer a question and help them make a decision. So, thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. What do we have in this box? I will link this down in the description because it is available. You can check it out right now in a few different configurations, actually. In fact, I'm sure that I'll kick myself because there'll be some variation of it that I would have preferred. But anyways, what we have here is the newest generation of Microtech Scarab. If you don't know, the Scarab is currently their largest double action production OTF, right? In the past, they have done longer ones, right? But their biggest currently active double action production OTF. And there are some differences here between this version. This is the Scarab 2 Gen 3. There are some differences between this and the Scarab 2 Gen 1 and 2, which I actually have over on the right side. But the biggest question for a lot of people is the firing switch easier? Is it easier to deploy this? Does it have the new Microtech sauce with the super easy switch? And the answer is yes. Oh my goodness. This is, listen, as I said back when I reviewed mine, this is my Scarab 2 Gen, I don't know, whatever it is, 1 or 2, right? This is a Shadow Scarab. And no, it's not for sale, and it won't be for sale. I'm going to keep them both. I said in the review for this one that the Scarab is the easiest to fire of all the big, you know, the large Microtech OTFs because the firing switch is so wide. And while that is true, definitely, there's a lot of force that's required to push that switch forward, right? And definitely backwards. But the difference between this knife and this knife, oh my God, it's night and day. It's night and day. It's so much easier. This is insane. Insanely easy. So I actually used to own a Scarab just like this. It was in the old generation. It was in this configuration with just the drop point stonewashed blade. And I ended up selling it and just keeping my, I got an opportunity to buy a Shadow Scarab, and I just bought that one. I didn't think I needed both. Now I have both. I will probably carry and use this one. But anyways, let's talk about some differences here between the two. So the first thing that I noticed is that the aesthetic of the scale is different, right? The little lines that are housing these inserts are a little bit more open and not as confining. There are less compartments, I guess. I gotta be honest, I think the new Scarab looks better. As far as the switch goes, we now have, I guess, it's actually a longer track, right? The switch itself isn't any wider or necessarily like any taller. It's just a lot easy. Oh my gosh, like, so same amount of force between these two. I'm saying it's literally about twice, maybe 250%. That's probably the wrong percentage. It's probably 2 to 2.5 times easier to pull back. The lines that are underneath there, I guess the idea there is that as you continue to pull these knives in and out of your pocket, debris and lint gets built up in the switch path. And so those little areas it'll force that debris down and into those areas and just sort of help break it up and keep it from messing with the switch as you continue to deploy it over time. And yeah, it probably would do that pretty well. The other side has no divider, like left to right, like this area right here, this flat, this sort of connects these two areas for the screws. This has nothing on this side. I think that looks really cool. Honestly, I like the aesthetic of this one much more than the standard one, right? Back here, we sort of have these zones, like the way that the frame comes together is different. That's what you're seeing there is actually, can you see that? It's the back of the blade, and you can see that coming down and slamming into this area back here. Those look like that's just like the drainage zone now. Like if you submerge, I get it, because the Scarab is like the famous, like, able to be opened underwater knife, right? So it looks like the drainage zone, and then you just happen to see everything back there. Pocket clips appear to be the same. The blades, obviously the blade styles are different. One thing that I do not like as much, this Shadow Scarab, is Bowler M390. Admittedly, I have no idea what the heat treat is on that. For all I know, it could have been subpar to begin with. M390 MK is Microtech's famous, that's their little special baby with Bowler, right? I don't know what exactly is slightly different about it. I would imagine it has something to do with, you know, maybe it makes it easier to grind or machine or whatever, who knows, right? But their HRC range has been low, not great. So every time I see M390 MK, I think, like it's just sort of been synonymous with not optimal. Admittedly, using Microtech knives, they seem to be anywhere from fine to slightly, you know, not up to standards, right? Like over the years using like Ultratechs and Combat Troodons, right? My new Combat Troodon doesn't seem like it holds an edge quite as long as some of my other M390 knives. So maybe, you know, that is the case, that they are heat treating things across the board just suboptimally. I don't know. I don't have the right testing equipment. I'm a regular Joe. I'm just using knives like normal, you know, not doing anything scientific, right? So I don't love that they have like exclusively switched to this M390 MK, right? And as many people have pointed out, it's very unlikely we will see anything else from Microtech for a while. I would love to see various steels from Microtech, and I would love to see them hit higher HRC numbers. I just don't think that's going to happen. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But outside of that, what is different? How about the firing power? You said it's easier to deploy. Is it less powerful? No. They have legitimately managed to make the action substantially better. And I mean substantially better, while reducing 0% of the firing power. I mean, it feels... Hold on. Coming out, it feels exactly the same. Nah, it's in my head. They're identical. It's just the amount of force required to overcome that switch, especially pulling back down. It is so much easier to do this one. In fact, I wonder if this one is... Yeah, the texture feels about the same. Yeah. So these Scarabs went through a weird thing where the very first Scarab 2 Gen 1 had 2 springs. Then they switched to a single spring system. And I think that's what this one is. It could actually be a dual spring, because then they went back to a dual spring for some of these. And then now these new ones all have dual springs. This feels incredibly reliable and incredibly smooth. Huge fan. If you have an issue with your OTF, Microtech OTF, whatever, and you're like, it feels like it's underpowered, it feels sluggish, it's getting locked up and it's not deploying all the way, the answer is, number one, you want to blow it out thoroughly with compressed air. Thoroughly blow it out with compressed air. If you feel like something's lodged in there, you might want to take it apart, right? But blow it out with compressed air. Then what you need is the aerosol REM oil. That will fix 99% of issues. Anytime I've ever had an issue with an OTF, not just Microtech OTFs, but any OTF, just doing that has solved it. But this one does not appear to have bounce back like the Hera or anything like that. I have deployed this probably 200 times and I've had 0 failures. As far as lockout, this does not have the new Microtech system where it's like the 0 blade play. So as far as blade play, it's minimal, but I can feel it. Versus the Shadow Scarab. Honestly, the Shadow Scarab feels like it's got slightly less. Just, it might be in my head, but I feel like it's got slightly less. But either way, very, very minimal. Incredibly minimal. Exactly what I'd expect. I think I paid about $500 for this guy. Do I think that that's a fair price? No, I think that that's too much money. I think this is a really nice OTF, but it doesn't really, you know, jump out at me as I know people are like, well, you bought it, so that means you think that you, but I'm a reviewer and I'm going to buy, a lot of times I'm going to overpay for something just so I can share my thoughts, right? But do I think that it is a $500 OTF? No. Do I think there's anything else on the market that's exactly like it, right? When we're comparing apples to apples, we're not talking about clones or any of those trash markets, right? No, I think the Scarab does kind of stand alone. Maybe the Guardian Tactical Recon 40, but that still feels like a different knife, honestly. The Scarab is kind of, you know, it's that flagship Microtech, you know, American OTF. But realistically, you know, I'm not going to say that this should be like a there's going to be people saying like the Scarab should be a $200 or $300 knife, and that's it's just wrong. It's wrong. They can't make them for that much, right? But you know, $400, yeah, I think so. I think 400, you know, maybe 450 max. It's definitely a bit more powerful than your other like Microtech OTFs at this size, right? The other competitors, right? Even the Guardian Tactical Recon 40 is still not quite. It doesn't feel quite as powerful. Yeah, it's just it was a little hard for me to choke down that $500 price tag. Like if I'm just being honest. But I bought it and I really, really like it. It's just really unfortunate that Microtech insists on using this M390 MK. And on top of that, they insist on not getting the numbers where everybody else. I'm sure that Microtech makes their own argument for hitting the range lower. But I feel like if you asked 10 people or 100 people in the community, 99 of them would say, it would be nice if they got those numbers up a bit. Now, if anybody knows, you know, any new information as far as like the HRC numbers, if Microtech is getting them higher now, that would be news to me, so that would be nice to know, but I haven't heard that. So anyways, this knife will get a full review. I'm going to carry it, use it. This is, you know, well under the parameters where I'm comfortable using the knife and carrying it. So it'll be nice to experience that because it is kind of a big, chunky OTF, a lot bigger than the Combat Troodon that I'm used to carrying. But yeah, it's cool. Overall, it's cool. I am really, really happy with it, and it is surprisingly easy to fire. I think that's the biggest thing there. So anyways, that's going to be it for today. Just a quick first impressions video. Like I said, I'll link the Scarab down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on the Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.